he challenged me. He said, you should meet 2 or 3 people every day.
We're talking about how to level up on LinkedIn and engagement, being the go-giver, the idea that being open to opportunity.
We're all dealing with challenges, but how do you overcome that?
Master Connector with Steve Spiro is live on air.
And everybody, welcome to the Master Connector Show. I am Rob Genovese, and I'm your co-host for today. I want to thank you for joining us today as we come at you weekly with some great guests, some insights on connecting with people, on being the light, inspiring people to be their best. And we look to always bring more and more better guests to you so you can learn some stuff and, hopefully just have some fun doing it. But this is the Master Connector Show. And, I want to introduce Steve Spiro. And if you don't know Steve is the Master Connector. I mean, I've never met anybody who's gone from where he was, which was 27 years ago, extremely shy, extremely introverted, not really talking to people. We were kind of alike in that way. We came from the same kind of background, the same kind of personality style. And to think that all these years later, he's developed into a person who can talk to anybody, anywhere, anytime, and does it on a regular basis. When some people think about meeting new people, they go, well, where do you meet people? Do you go to a networking event, or where do you go to meet people if you had to meet people? If you've ever asked yourself that question, it's not an easy question to answer, but the answer is obvious. And Steve said this to me years ago. He said, Rob, the world is my networking event. So wherever he goes, he's meeting new people, and he's always meeting fascinating people. And the idea is connect people to other people so that we can all enjoy advancing whatever it is we're looking to do. So I'm really excited to bring him to the forefront of this stage. Please help me welcome the Master Connector himself, Mr. Steve Spiro. What's up, Steve?
What's going on, Rob? Great to see you, sir. I appreciate the introduction. What a blessing it is to know you 27 years. That's amazing. And for those that don't know Rob, he is an incredible man and amazing family man, great businessman, brand builder. So make sure you get to know Rob if you haven't. But what's going on, friends? Steve Spiro, the Master Connector, coming at you live and direct. And here I am, right? We are another show 139. Crazy how we've gone where we are. And again, big thanks. Shout out to Cameron Toth, who has now back in the swing of his business, which went dead, basically during COVID, but he's alive and kicking and doing great. I know he's a huge supporter of the show continuously. But listen, this is an opportunity for you to connect. So I want you to make sure, I know there's some people on, hey, Scotty, good to see you, sir. Make sure you get in the comments. We only get a number. We see, okay, how many people are watching live, but we don't know if you're on unless you get in the comments. So yeah, you share, like, but also tell us where you're tuning in from, right? The city, the state, the country, if you're from another part of the world. We love our community. We love you. We want to be a blessing to you. So let's get in the comments. We love participators. We are LinkedIn participants, not LinkedIn lurkers. Okay, so let's get in there. But listen, Rob touched on it, right? Our mission on this show is to be the light, uplift, inspire, and encourage, and that is my personal mission. I was telling somebody recently on a call that my actually it was about the January before COVID hit. Fortuitously, I put together a life mission statement, and that mission statement is pretty elaborate. I'm not going to read it or get into it, but a lot of it was to be the light. And then COVID hits, and interestingly enough, because of LinkedIn, because of connections, because of networking, I felt more connected than I had ever been before. And a lot of that is because I wanted becoming others focused, and I took my eyes off for myself and put them on other people. And my goal was to really somehow add value, right? And so that's a big part of what we're about. And recently, I'm again Rob and I are part of an amazing networking group, and not to say that this group is better than some of the others, but we like this group. And I was told that I am one of the light workers. I never heard that a phrase before. It's funny because my mom's maiden name is Light, so Diane Light Spiro, she goes by, and so light worker. Interesting, right? But Today we're going to talk about the path of light chaser. So a little different, but kind of relates, right? So that's our topic today. And it's interesting, right? We have a lot of crazy stuff going on in the world, stuff going on over in Israel, still stuff going on in Ukraine, and it's crazy. And between all the the partisan stuff going on. It's a crazy world. There's lots of news. There's lots of negativity. We need to make sure that we're the light. And honestly, you can't shine your light if it's dimming because all of that negativity. So not saying you need to, but one of the great mentorship that I got, and Rob and I share a similar mentor. The mentorship I got was you should think about turning the news off. It's so funny because you see people that they go to bed watching the news and they inevitably have lots of nightmares. And you wonder, is there a connection? You're doing all this, you're listening and putting that negativity in your brain, right? What I've learned is this, and it was an old computer term, may not be so relevant today, but I still hear it every now and then. It's an acronym GIGO, G-I-G-O, which is garbage in, garbage out. And what you put in, you're going to put out, right? So make sure you're putting in good stuff. And, there's a scripture. It says, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks, right? And you want to make sure you're putting in that good stuff so that we can be the light. And so if you're curious, I looked up, the great oracle Google, and I said, okay, what is light chaser? And this part resonated to what the show is going to be about. Could metaphorically represent individuals who are on a journey of self-discovery, seeking enlightenment, and actively pursuing positivity, clarity, and personal growth in their lives. To me, that's what it's all about. That's what the show's about. That's what our journey's about. I think Rob and I share that mission. So today we're going to have an incredible time. So if you're ready for Rob to introduce our amazing guest, I want you to go into the right into the comments right now. Type in, let's go, and we'll get the things rolling. And Robbie G, appreciate you, sir, big time. I'll pass it to you.
All right. Thanks, Steve. Excited for today's show, and I'm going to get right to it. Let's go, because you want to be hearing from our next guest, our guest on this show. Dean Fisher is an accomplished certified meeting professional. He has a wealth of experience spending over 3 decades in the Five Diamond industry, events industry of Las Vegas. As a meeting broker at Meetings Made Easy, he's leveraging his executive hotel expertise to give his clients insightful advantages in contract negotiations and developing synergy relationships with hospitality partners. His extensive knowledge of property sales and large event operations enables him to navigate the complexities of sale. I can't even say it. The complexities of the sales. Alongside supporting his clients' meeting and event strategy, Dean is an avid traveler, loves to golf with his family. I'm right there with you, Dean. I love to golf myself. That's what I do in between hanging out with my family, by the way. He's also passionate about speaking on personal growth development aimed at enhancing our industry's collective strength. Please welcome to the show, Mr. Dean Fisher. Welcome, Dean.
Yo, guys. Wow, what an intro. I really appreciate that.
It's awesome. Dino, we got to call you Dino, right? That we found out. Right. I mean, I've been calling you the wrong name all this time. Dino.
No, my friends know me by Dino. The whole industry does. Literally keep it simple, right? And I love the golf reference, Rob. I had to take my family with me as they grew up. Otherwise, I got no chances to go.
Yeah, I gotcha. It's awesome. Actually a recent activity of mine. I took it up at the beginning of last year. And I thought, you go out with people and you're like, hey, you hang out, you play golf, you shoot a couple rounds, you talk business, whatever. I hit my first ball and I'm like, this is what I must do for the rest of my life.
Isn't it amazing? It's basically an analogy of life that you play in real time. Yeah. And you can never beat it. It's so cool.
Yeah. And you can play it to your 80, 85, 90, right? It's one of those sports, right?
It's incredible. Yeah. It really is.
Yeah, we picked up pickleball recently, and you can play that older, but people get injured now because they're not stretching, right? So, but anyway, again, welcome, Scott. There's somebody who's showing up as LinkedIn user. We don't know who you are, but welcome, Stuti. Good to see you again. Great to have you on here, Jana. It's great to have you on here, and Donna. Wow, it's been a while. We need to catch up. Let's go, Donna. Good to see you. Anyway, great having you on here. All right, Dean, we're going to get into this, right? So, as I sort of alluded to, we're in a world filled with chaos and darkness. And so here's the question. How can we establish base fundamentals that ground our daily perspective on the path of a light chaser?
That's a question right there. It's probably got an hour behind it, but we'll make it nice and tight. It's taking responsibility for yourself, my friends. It's really finding that place every day that you ground into and that you take that out and share it into the universe that you're working around. It's understanding that we're part of a commitment and a relationship that's bigger than us. And I can really share a little more behind that into my story and how I found it.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, I mean, I love the whole light chasers, right? I mean, I'm a Star Wars guy, Star Trek guy. I think of lightsabers, but a little bit different, light chasers, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of times nowadays we're hearing about superpowers, and it's interesting, right? So you guys know, I'm a shameless plug. I wrote a book, The Tao of a Master Connector, and it says here that I regularly turned my biggest weaknesses into my superpowers, and so we talk about superpowers a lot. But on the journey to enlightenment, how do we encourage individuals to embrace their spectrum as superpowers rather than limitations?
I'll tell you, I'm not a teacher in this realm. I'm more of a mentor, and I open the mindset of the understanding so I can share my story and where I came from and how it really attracted me into it. I was a master manifestor, still am, and was able to create an outside career for myself as an executive in the hotel industry that most would dream of, but got to the end of it and realized that there was something missing. And I figured I hadn't gone inside yet, so let's see what's in there. The path that it took me into was really a connection into this understanding that I wasn't on this staircase of life. I was more in the rings of the circle of a tree, and I was always in the right place at the right time. But my biggest issues is that I didn't accept me, who I was as a person, what my contributing natures was to this experience, and where my superpowers were. I love to joke that in the events industry, we're all a little ADD and OCD. It's kind of what brings us together. But my big step, I think the thing that kind of threw me off the other side was I've always dealt with dyslexia, and I always felt it was one of those things that was a weakness that people were looking for, and didn't realize that later it actually was the superpower that I was able to grow into my career over, because I use different ways of thinking and the idea of communication and analogies and spatial understandings and pictures in my head. And I didn't embrace that because I didn't know everybody else didn't think that way. Now, when I got onto this side of the coin and I'm actually out here helping my clients, I'm finding that the full value of who I am is being used. And that actually increased the understanding of this light. And I realize now that when I connect with people like yourself, Rob, it's not really about us. It's about investing into this etherical bank of the world and what this relationship is in communication and that energy, and embracing that as the light and realizing that you're not really doing it. You're investing yourself into it every day. And that actually is what creates the life around you that you're hoping for.
That's amazing. That's great. Rob, it looks like you wanted to say something. You're muted though, unless you were trying to get some.
It always happens once a day.
Yeah.
Exactly. But when you talk about superpowers, I remember the first time somebody asked me what my superpower was, and I was like, I didn't know I was supposed to have one. It was like a curveball. And what she clarified, what's that thing that you do and you're good at, and people tell you, hey, this is what you're good at. And I hadn't really given it much conscious thought. But when I started to think about this superpower, right? And I came from a place, Steve knows me way back. He could tell you stories. I was scared. I couldn't talk to anybody. I had no superpowers. I was like the opposite. I was, being dragged down by everything. But as time went by and, you talk to more and more people, and I leveled up my skill sets in helping people, what it really came down to is, I know I'm a big connector myself. I do a lot of networking and in building brands for people. One thing it takes to build a brand, especially if you're a self-employed person, it takes guts. You've got to put yourself out there. You've got to, highlight what makes you different and put it out there. And sometimes that's scary for people because they don't like tomatoes thrown at them. And so what I discovered, one of my superpowers is that being a champion for other people, being able to tell them not just that you can do it, but show them, take them, inspire them, motivate them to understand that they've got so much inside of them that they just need to let it out, and to kind of help them kick that fear aside. So that's what I came upon. I don't know if it's so totally accurate, but it's what I do.
No, I think it is actually. It's very accurate. And when we actually express ourselves in our totality and we use the best of ourselves, there's this great book I read once called the dark side of the light chasers. It's kind of what kind of led me in this direction. It really highlighted the fact that as humans, we tend to hide from ourselves the things we don't like about ourselves or that project us in a way that we don't want to be seen. One of the things I realized is I'm a son of a gun. I mean, it's just true. And when I negotiate contracts for my client or protect my family, they really appreciate it. But for a long time, I was trying to present myself as the nice guy in the middle that always was there for everybody. The truth was, I'm just very fair and balanced, and I'm very clear and transparent. And people appreciate that. And that's really what's, again, finding that superpower within you and realizing that that's where your strength comes from, is being holistically yourself rather than everything else around you.
That's a perfect segue to the next topic is, and I want to just reflect on something you talked about, because I believe in an initial call, we spoke about how we both have dyslexia, right? And we both use that as a way, and we all have a set of challenges. And, obviously I was picked on, bullied. I have dyslexia. I was, there's a bunch of things that I've dealt with, right? And I've learned that whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And what it did for me, in a similar way, is those challenges, dyslexia in particular, allowed me to be a problem solver, a creative problem thinker. It got me thinking, okay, outside the box. I can't do things the way normal people do it. Yeah, I'm abnormal. Yeah, yeah, exactly. But I'm able to do it differently. But that all came through self-discovery. And so we want to talk about the next topic, and I've been remiss on this. So type in #self, please, community, and we'll get back to doing that. We want you involved here. Again, we want you participating. If you have any questions for Dean, throw it out there. If you have any overall statements, we want to hear your voice. All right. So Dean, in the pursuit of self-discovery, what practical steps can our viewers take to find their personal and unique relationship with self?
That's a great question. Where I found it was in meditation. I didn't go into it with a big smile. I went into it very kicking and screaming. It seemed like a waste of time to me. I didn't really understand it. But I had a great network of friends around me that kept working with me on the idea of it. And I finally took the plunge and helped myself into a couple guided meditations on a weekend about 7 years ago. And woke up the next day feeling a lot stronger than I normally did. And I thought to myself, well, isn't that interesting? It's not the physical world that helped me through this. It was doing something a little more in myself. And at that moment, it just dawned on me that I was actually creating a relationship with something that I hadn't had before. And so I baselined it. I did the same meditation for the last 7 years, and it grew on its own. And I go back to it every day like a Netflix show in the morning. I once heard, if you're trying to help yourself, you need to give yourself some time. And so the first thing in the morning should be for yourself. I really set the phone down. I start into this morning practice that I have. It takes about an hour instead of just sitting there drinking coffee. When I come out of it, I'm centered into my experience, and I'm the experiencer, not the experience itself. I realize I'm here for a purpose. It's bigger than whatever the challenges of the day are. And when I lose my ground, because we all do, I can go back to that light, that beginning of the day that I started in, and find my balance in that. And no, every day as a human, I'm going to forget this. I don't know why it works this way, but I have to start every day reminding myself that I am not this experiencer. I'm the experience. I'm not the experience. I'm the experiencer. And when you connect into that energy, that's where you find this strength of this relationship that you can depend on instead of everybody else around you defining you. And when you start to depend on that relationship, you start to see what you call your truth. And that truth may not be having $10 million in the bank. It may just be a lifestyle that allows you to do things that a millionaire would do. And I kind of graduated into that. I travel a lot and I see a lot of the world only because it's for my clients. And it has a back end understanding that's built into it that I created in the physical world that I understand, but I take advantage of being a 1099 contractor, creating a lifestyle around myself that I can actually embrace through this and offer the others. So I see it like the hourglass. The bottom of the hourglass is the world we usually live in every day. The top of it's the etherical world that we really can't be in. The middle of it's really where you're trying to find your balance, your place. And I call it the mustard seed, the big old story that we hear about. It's not really the faith of it. It's finding that place. And when you fall out of it, helping yourself back up to it is literally just connecting in again with what you will call self.
I love that.
Wow.
That's great. I mean, we just got schooled right there. I'm telling you, that's
You know,
great.
as Dean's talking, my mind is going just like it's like going down this river that Dean is painting.
Yeah.
And when I hear things like that, and I'm kind of like a little bit edgy, I don't look like I'm very woo-woo, but I can dive down deep into that energy flow conversation really fast. And what you made me think about, Dean, was, you know, discovering your truth, being the experiencer. And a lot of that to me has to do with getting into the flow. And for years, I would battle against life going, I want you to do this for me, life, and try and fight it. And actually, when I realized, number one, you got to be cool with who you are, and you got to be who you are. You have to show up. There's the Nirvana song, "Come as You Are." Well, it's come as who you are. Don't put up any masks or anything. Come as who you are, and then accept that. And then accept that the big truth that I learned in my life later in life is that I'm not in control of anything really, except for how I think and how I treat people. But getting into that flow of just let life lead you down the path, knowing that you've set out what you want to achieve. It will guide you there. Doors will open, some will close, but you don't know that those are not meant to be open to you anyway. There's so much more fulfillment in that. And I love when you said you're the experiencer. And every day I wake up and I'm like, all right, I can't wait to see what happens today.
It's an incredible way to start the day. And, yesterday didn't start that way in most people's minds, but I took it that way. I woke up to a dead cell phone. And the first thing I say to myself in those circumstances, life's happening for me, not to me. So I must have to make these phone calls. Maybe I'm talking to somebody who needs to hear something. Maybe I wasn't supposed to have my cell phone that day for a reason I don't know about. Maybe there's a reason tomorrow that you'll have it. But the truth is when you accept it and you don't use it as that place that is going to dictate, my first instinct was to go in my room and meditate and get my day started the right way. It wasn't to take a hole of the bowl and go ride it and fix it, because like you said, my biggest challenge every day is giving to the universe and understanding that I'm not actually doing it. It goes back to that etherical coins in the bank. If you're going to invest yourself into your day as a light chaser in your light, you're literally investing yourself into this extra energy that's around you that gives you this universal consciousness of thought, of understanding ideas. Your strength is built into that. When I was on the corporate side and I would go into white noise because I was worried somebody was going to find out I was dyslexic when I'm talking in front of the group, and I'd flip a word or whatever because my brain runs a little faster than my creativity, I literally disconnected from that when I would do that. And when you understand that that's where your true intelligence comes from, we only can experience what we've learned and done in our own lives. But there's an intelligence out there you can connect into that's another way of thinking and living that will give you the extreme that you've been looking for. It's not in you, it's out there.
Love that. I wanted to just, you guys are talking about flow, and, I'm a big book guy. So there's a book, I'm not even going to attempt to tell you his last name, but it's Flow by Mahali, and it's Ciskszent, and it goes on and on. Great book on the power of the flow and getting in the flow. There's been times I've been in the flow and other times not. So, but it's great when you're on the flow. And I, like you, Dean, I have an incredible morning practice, including meditation. And you mentioned something about, like, I feel like you said it, and if not, it's the way I interpreted it, sort of a movie, right? So my meditation is a sort of a movie that's playing in my mind, and to help manifest the type of, again, I understand that there's powers, the power is greater than me, and it's going to happen when it's going to happen. And I believe God, you could say universe, you could say Barney Rubble. I don't, whatever, but whatever it is for you. But for me, it's God, and God will manifest. Right. But I believe that there's power in programming what we want, and what we're looking for. Obviously we have to be adaptable, of course, but so this is great. And we're getting close to the top of the hour, and there are a few other questions, but I don't know if we're going to get to it, but that's okay. But I want to talk about, Rob, we're going to talk about #potential. We're going to skip over. Let's talk about potential, right? And here's a question for you, Dean, as we're closing down here, winding down. How can viewers unlock the full potential of their personal spectrum and turn it into a source of strength?
Reading, just like you said. When I really started getting strong in my own direction was when I took that responsibility for my own learning. I was going to the gym about 7 years ago, 2 hours a night, and I was listening to music and watching the news and getting pissed at everything I saw. Like you guys say, why sometimes it's just not worth it. And I started listening to podcasts. It was a new industry back then. And what I heard around me was a lot of people sharing, but the one thing that stuck out is that I invested myself into something for 10,000 hours. I could actually become an expert at it. I thought, why not human nature? I move people around as an industry. I mean, 10,000 people in my world, to get them to go from one area to another is literally nothing to me. But I wanted to understand why as well. Well, when you start to read books, you start to understand that people have invested their lives into giving you the tips that they've learned. And you can accelerate your understanding of your life and look back on reflections of where you've come from through theirs. One of my favorite authors is Wayne Dyer. And you can watch his life history through all of his readings, all of his writings. And the Tao was one of his strengths as well. He really believes in that idea of energy. So I think that it was that personal responsibility of myself. My reading list is extensive as well. As a dyslexic, I found that listening to audiobooks works better for me than reading because I don't fall asleep. If anybody wants a suggestion on how to do that, you have to rewind the book over and over and over again until your brain gives up on spacing out. So every time it spaces out, go back, rewind the book back to where I'll last remember it and re-listen to that spot. Your brain will eventually give up. And then when it plugs in, then you just immediately go into it. And so I found that that has literally been my resource, and giving it to the universe or God, or however you want to say it. It's not instruction from the outside that you're really reading. When you read them, you're gaining perspective and introspective from things you've been thinking about on the inside. And the books will give you that resource of understanding. You should take it into the real world and talk to people you know about in your trusted circle. But it should be your relationship. It shouldn't be a relationship that the world has with you. It should be your relationship with that world. I call it my Netflix show, like you said. I can't get enough of it, but it becomes more of I thought it was a responsibility at one point. Like I have to do this because I decided to, but then I realized it's a relationship. I'm doing it because I love to do it. I'm going to see my best friend, the universe, the one that loves me more than anything, infinitely, and everything else around me is the subject of that. So it's just a perspective. I used to be the experience. That was the latter in the idea of the analogy. Being the experiencer is being the rings in the tree. Taking yourself out of the equation, realizing you're not really doing it. You're just putting yourself there. But you got to put the work in. You got to show up every day. You have to plug into this energy and use it to help others. As we know, we're here for service to everybody. That's what our lives are about, not ourselves. Literally here for service. I do what I do to help my clients. You're doing your podcast for the same reasons. I love to be a guest just to actually support that. But yeah, that's the life, guys.
All right. Well, Dean Fisher, thank you so much for that. We are actually running out of time here, but this was a really great conversation. We're just scratching the surface of this stuff. So listen, we've got people out there who would want to hear more about what you're all about and connect with you. What's the best way people can connect with you?
LinkedIn is my strongest social media outlet. Look me up on LinkedIn under Dean Fisher. You can also reach me by email, dfisher@meetings.com. If you're in the Arizona area, Phoenix, Scottsdale, I'll actually be in Tucson December 6th hosting an event at the newly renovated Omni. You're welcome to come down and visit, connect through the show, and send me a hello.
Absolutely.
All right. Awesome, Dean. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us today.
We appreciate you, Dean. Thank you for that. And we're gonna get you in the green room if you want to stick around till we're done. We'll chat a little bit afterwards. But amazing job. Make sure you connect with Dean. Dino, he's an incredible guy. Rob.
Yeah. So, listen, there's a whole path that we're all taking. And I love the stuff that Dean is talking about. What's your superpower, and be the experiencer. And in there is the experience, and the experience is what you take with you that you build upon. And as you do that, you're mapping out your journey. You're writing your own story. And if you're smart, you do like my buddy Steve did here. You write all that stuff down. I remember a coach a long time ago told me, he said, look, if you want to read the minds of successful people, read their book. But if you don't write your book, then people can't really benefit from it I'm going to put the link in the chat in a minute here for you to pick up Steve's book. It's going to inspire you. It's going to teach you some stuff. And look, that's going to help form up your story so you can be a light for other people.
Absolutely. I appreciate that, Rob. Thank you so much. And it's been a blessing. And really, it's out on Audible now, too. If you're not like Dean and I are, because we're learning disabled, Audible is what a great tool that you can have now today. Right. But yeah, I just want to say, listen, first of all, thank you, community. Thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate you. We would not be here if it was not for you. Like I said before, every one of you count. And I know there was a few comments that I think I may have missed, but I saw that Donna was commenting before. Yolanda, good to see you again. We've been missing you. But anyway, it's good to have everyone on the show here. Next week, we're not going to be on. We're all going to be getting ready for Thanksgiving, right? Black Friday, whatever we're calling it, or just before Thanksgiving Eve, what we're going to call it. But we're going to skip that. But we will be back on Wednesday, the 29th for episode 140. Oh my gosh. And it's Your Story Can Change Lives with Timothy Jacobs. So you don't want to miss that. Got a couple weeks. And I highly recommend make sure you go to the link and make sure you get registered so that event shows up on your calendar. And you can share it with other people. Don't forget, right? Because we are about being the light. We're uplifting, inspiring, encouraging the world. And this is a tough world, as I said before, right? And we want to be a voice of encouragement, right? There's some lonely people out there. We want to be that friendly voice, that voice that that people can turn to, that people listen to, that are always inspiring people. So remember to do that. Remember to be the light. It's our mission on this planet, in my opinion. The metaphor of you put a candle. You take your candle and you light somebody else's candle. Your candle doesn't diminish, so it's not hurting you by uplifting somebody. And if you put the two candles together, you get a broader light. And it's amazing what this world could be if we all are lighting each other's candle and keeping the world, bright and be make it a better place. So we appreciate you guys. We will see you next time. Say 2 weeks from now, and make sure to do good. Love you guys. See you soon. He challenged me. He said, you should meet 2 or 3 people every day.
We're talking about how to level up on LinkedIn and engagement, being the go-giver, the idea that being open to opportunity.
We're all dealing with challenges, but how do you overcome that?
Master Connector with Steve Spiro is live on air.